on the other side of it, I also had undiagnosed ADHD. So when you have ADHD, the part of your brain that controls your attention, which is what people really know ADHD to be, like people who have ADHD, the sort of known thing is that you have a difficult time regulating your attention. You also have a really hard time regulating your emotion, because the part of your brain that controls your attention also controls your emotions. So I was having like emotional outbursts in class. And this is like in first grade, so right around the same time. And part of the reason that was happening is I was frustrated because I was falling behind. I was struggling to read. I was struggling to pay attention and do well in school, but I knew I could do it. So there was this, what was happening and what I felt could happen were different. And so I was getting frustrated, and that was creating a reaction. But at the time, it was 1991. My mom actually took me to Yale to be tested by the person who did the original ADHD study. And girls weren't being diagnosed with ADHD at the time. I mean, very, very few were. And I was already, by the time I got there, had been socialized to sit in my chair. I was already starting to work with a tutor who really tortured me. I mean, this tutor, like, there was a bell. She would ring the bell whenever I did anything. It was like, it was really bad. So there was this combination of, I was being told there was something wrong with my brain. I was being told there was something wrong with my body. And by adults, by like real professional adults, by like the tutor recommended by the psychologist, by the best orthopedic surgeon that Boston Children's Hospital had to offer, they were feeding me with these messages, which were this: you're not valuable, and there's something wrong with you that we need to fix. And so that's really, I can probably trace my disordered eating back to that. But really it came to a head when I got my back brace at 11. And that's when I really wanted to start to shrink myself. And I just I felt like I was so loud and I was so much, and I was taking up all this emotional space in the world because my brace sort of took up all the space in our house. It was suffocating to me. It was suffocating to my mom, who, it was very triggering for her to have me going through something that she'd been through. My mom had a horrific experience with her scoliosis. It was really defining of her life. She was in a body cast for 6 months. She was in a back brace for 2.5 years. So like her trauma, my brace sort of like took over everything. And so I just wanted to shrink it and make it smaller and make it, all the problems disappear. And I wanted to control the things I could. So I started to control my food. And so that's really where it started. And I didn't get help until I turned 21. So from 11 to 21 was really like a very dark, very, very, for lots of reasons. And I didn't get diagnosed. When I was 21, I got diagnosed with ADHD. And that was sort of the beginning of my recovery and my journey toward a happy place and a good mental health, to really knowing how to take care of myself, knowing how to advocate for myself. And I would say it took me about, 5 years to really get to a place where I had gotten rid of all the toxic people. I had gotten rid of the toxic energy. I was ready to like live a healthy life in all the different ways. And I'm really lucky. I mean, I had a lot of support. I had a lot of access to mental health support. I just had a lot of access, so as soon as I knew there was a problem and I recognized it and I got it, I really went for it with therapy. And then, so I really was in recovery truly for a long time before I decided to get pregnant. And so that's why it was so surprising that I was so triggered. It really surprised me because I was in such a good, stable place. And I was scared that I might be triggered by changes to my body, but I had a support team in place and I felt comfortable enough to go forward with it. I would have picked an alternative path had I knew that was going to happen. And so, so it was a long journey for me. And those years between 11 to 21 were deeply unpleasant.
I mean, other than puberty, when is your body going to go through more changes than while you're pregnant?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I mean, and nobody really talks about those two things as sort of being parallel experiences. But once I started talking about it, I wrote an article for Newsweek about it. I mean, people have come out of the woodwork being like, I can't believe no one's talking about this. Because I think it's different for everybody, but if you had a traumatic experience during puberty, it can often sort of bubble up.
Trying to think.
I know it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, you asked the question. you seem
But
to
I
be
should
fair.
point out to esteemed audience who's thinking, geez, Rob, how many mean questions are you going to ask? If you had written a book about a chocolate factory, we'd be talking chocolate.
No, it's true. No, to me, honestly, and I say this like truly, that it's easier for me to tell my truth than it is for me to hold it back inside. Like, I'd rather everybody know. I'm like, oh, now you know who I am. So like, we're good. Now we're like really as good friends as I thought we were going to be.
We have grown close already.
Exactly.
Well, while we're at it, let's talk about the ADHD, because I had read that you feel that this helps you channel your focus for writing. That it's almost a superpower that helps you with research. So how does that ADHD enable your writing?
So ADHD is this funny little thing where, so it's the way that your brain is just shaped. It's the way that your brain is formed is different. And so as difficult it is for me to regulate my attention, meaning like to transition from one thing to another. So if you have to go from like math to history to English, and then you've got a break for lunch, and then you have to have recess, and then you go to your, like, school is a nightmare because you've got to, you're in it, you're learning, and then you're being forced to go to the hallway. You've got to like get all your stuff, pack it up, go to the hall. The idea of moving my body from place to place with the bag and my things and remembering all the things, I don't know how I ever survived it. It also impacts your executive functioning. So for example, something like mental math, where you have to take a piece of information, hold it in your brain, and move it around and do something else with it, is actually impossible. And I I cannot do mental math. I will never be able to do mental math. And I'm so proud to say that, because I was always like, well, why can't I do it? What's wrong with me? I'm like, well, actually, like, I just can't do it. It's not, my brain is not built for it. And so, but the flip side of it is that even though I can't regulate my attention, So when I get obsessed with something, it's like all I want to talk about, all I want to think about. So I write books about things that I'm obsessed with. Like, there was a period of time where I was really obsessed with chess. I was obsessed with chess culture. I was obsessed with chess boards. I was obsessed with how the regulation board, the pieces felt in your hand, and how it felt to like roll out the board, and what the colors looked like. And I wanted to just like research it and dive into it and think about it and smell it and feel it. And that makes for really good storytelling. Like, there's nothing like creating a fictional world when you're obsessed with creating that fictional world. So for me, it is a huge advantage. Now it's difficult to manage in all the other parts of my life, but in writing, in my little bubble where I get to like make up my own people and have them do terrible things to each other and get into all kinds of mischief and trouble, it's so fun. I'm just glad I made it here to pick the thing I wanted to do that I could be obsessed with.
So what are you obsessed with currently?
So I grew up in New England, and I went to a prep school that was like very weird. I mean, weird, seemingly normal and like elitist and interesting, but there's like there's something mysterious. I'll leave you with that on the suspense.
Ready to place my bet on what your next book will be about.
So exciting.